Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Stories Behind the Stories. For the December 10th edition, almost said November somehow, oh boy, for the Neepawa Banner Press. I'm your host, Casper Wehrhahn. You might be familiar with me. I do some archives, stories, and photography for the paper here. And I'm joined today by my co-host, Eoin Devereux. Thank you for joining me.
You might be familiar with me. I'm here every week.
Every week, covers all the sports. Yeah. Thank you. You're doing a service to everybody else in the office.
Casper and Kira get a break every once in a while. I get stuck, I draw the short straw every. But no, I'm kidding around. It's a nice little fun little diversion for a half hour every week.
Yeah, you get to change things up a bit and do something different. It's definitely a nice change of pace for sure. Mm-hmm. But getting to the paper, we get to start off with a pretty big story, I would say, on the front page here. Perhaps a bit bittersweet for the community because it does have to deal with Team Electronics. They've been in business here for about 33 years now. And they are actually going to be closing shop because the co-owners, Dave McIntosh and Neil McNarland, partners for quite a long time, are going to be retiring. So congratulations to them, of course, on their retirement. And it'll be interesting change for the community for sure to have that business sort of slowly phase out, because they, of course, are going to try and get rid of as much stock as possible and have any leftovers still available there for purchase for some time.
Yeah.
And there's quite a bit of history in the building as well. And between these two people, they've worked together for a long time in one capacity or another, and then, of course, became business partners. And that there is actually in the second paragraph of the story, so I'll leave that for you all to read up on, because it's a fascinating history there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it'll be weird for them to not be in business together anymore.
Well, it's kind of interesting, as you said there, Casper, 30 plus years in Neepawa. It's one of those things that just for a lot of people, a certain generation, multiple generations, it's like they've just always been there. You needed, as we said just before we went on, you need a cable, or you need something, some earbuds or something like that. You just run down the team and you grab something like that. But again, this is a positive, because they, unlike a lot of businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic that had to shut down because they had to, this one got through, powered through, and it's because they're retiring. It's that point where, you can sort of step back from it, and we have to commend and congratulate both of them on that. It's a little melancholy, as you said, Casper, that we will be losing a business of this magnitude in the town of Neepawa, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, as it were. And it's got to be interesting, I'd imagine. Over 30, as you said, 30 plus years, 33 years, all the changes in technology and advancements that they've seen all through that. Because when they started in '89, home computers, for example, were not as plentiful as they were, and they were so expensive. And it's weird to see how things changed for them over all these decades.
Absolutely, yeah. The tech industry has really changed over the years since it began, and it's really just incredible. We had some, I don't know where they are at the moment, but we had some in the other building set up on some shelves. Just some of the older models of computers that used to be out there and in use, and it's just really fascinating to see how they've changed, how they kind of stayed the same in terms of looks, because you had these cubes, not like flat boxes like you have now, and then slowly changing into those flatter models, and all the different other things that ended up changing over the years. And now these days, typically when you have home computers, it's a lot of the time used for gaming instead of office work, because personal computers are quite expensive, actually, especially when you want to use them for gaming, actually, because it's very demanding. And that's what my brother actually has his for, and he actually went through Team Electronics for a lot of the upgrades on that, because Neil is just absolutely fantastic from what I've heard from my brother there. in terms of his skill set on that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if you do get an opportunity between now and when they close it up, you go down there, commend Dave and Neil for the time and effort, and the rest of the staff that's down there. And if you're curious about what's going to be happening with the building and the space, Kira Patterson, who wrote this story, also goes in depth in who will be taking over the new facility. So it's a case of it's an evolution, especially with a building like that, so historic and still in great shape. You want to be able to still have access to it, and we're going to have access to it. And it's going to be really interesting to see what the new owners are able to do with the space.
Yeah, because that's absolutely something we need to talk about as well, is that, you know, this building is already actually spoken for, which is just fantastic. One of the businesses in Neepawa that currently has a smaller studio, I believe it's Venus Hair and Body Care, yep. That is over by, I think it's Mountain Medical right now, is moving from their current space into what will now be the former Team Electronics building. So they'll have a lot more space to work with. And the Bell MTS services will be continuing there as well. So you'll still get sort of like probably like the phone type stuff there that way. But yeah, they'll be doing some renovations. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops. And like you said, this building has been in the community for a long time. We've done a piece or two on it before, either in looking back and as a separate, I think, museum feature. But this building actually used to be the Neepawa Post Office at one point, and the fact that it's still there and honestly still very much the same on the outside and looking good is just incredible. Like, I think the only thing that's really changed is obviously right now there's a Team Electronics sign up there.
Yep.
And they don't have the little like awnings above each of the individual windows, but yeah, it's really incredible. And again, just thank you to those two and all the staff for providing that service to the community over the years.
That's right. And it's one of those things, one of those stories that sort of a lot of people in the community knew about or heard whispers about, but we couldn't sort of say anything ourselves until we could officially say something. So it's one of those things of like, you know, we wanted to share this much earlier, but it's one of those things of you gotta sort of keep it under your hat until everybody involved is dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's.
And it's actually funny you mentioned that, because I think just a few days before, or no, a day or two after we heard about this story, my family was talking about Team Electronics for one reason or another. It's just like, oh yeah, the owners are retiring, but I can't tell them that.
Yep.
The news isn't official yet, so shh.
It's like one of those things, people will come up to us on the street. It's like, oh, did you hear about this? Or what do you know about this? And it's just like,
yeah, maybe. Who knows? Who's to say? I don't know.
We're just,
we can't speak officially until like maybe late Friday.
Yeah, that's never the answer they want to hear.
No, they want to know right now. But no, we're doing our due diligence. So lips shut, sealed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But again, once again, congratulations to Dave and Neil, and congratulations to the Wilsons, who will be taking over the building, and
Absolutely.
bigger and better things potentially, and we'll be covering that as well once that progresses.
Absolutely. And moving right into some more sweet things here, we have a lot of holiday type stuff going on. Our first item actually is regarding the Neepawa Farmers. They are supporting the Community Ministries Christmas campaign there.
Yep.
And Owen, you covered this story. Walk us a bit through that.
Oh yeah, although I gotta start off with taking an L on this one. Unlike the Neepawa farmers, who have not taken many losses this year, I got to take an L on this. And I'd love to say that, you know, I had a valid reason for making this error, but unfortunately, all I can say is it's December. I'm sort of coasting through to Christmas. I'm sure a lot of people will understand that. And because of that coasting, I made an error on the date it's going to be happening. It's not going to be happening at the next game on Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, the 12th. It's going to be happening on Friday, the 17th, the final home game of the Neepawa Farmers for the 2021 season. In the story, you're going to see the incorrect date. I do apologize for that. I wish I could say there was a valid reason for that. But again, it's just, I hate to say it, but sometimes things slip between the cracks. And this is one of those ones that I just dropped the ball, although we're talking about hockey. I missed the slap shot. I'll use that analogy. The puck came right at me, just really slow. I whiffed on it. I fell down. I hurt my shoulder. It's just, I'm out for the season. It's an upper body injury. To use all the hockey analogies I can. But other than the one glaring error, the rest of the story is valid in that the Neepawa Farmers, once again, are going to be helping out at the Salvation Army and Neepawa Community Ministry Center. They did this a couple years ago before the COVID-19 situation popped up and just ruined everything for everyone. They try and do this type of fundraiser as often as they can. If you have non-perishable food items, if you have toy donations you'd like to do, you bring them down to that game that's happening on the 17th against the Minnedosa Bombers. Going to be a real close rivalry game there. So bring them down, and all of those items are going to be given to community ministries. And at this time of year, it is so necessary. And you can compound that as well, Casper, with the rise of inflation, because not only do more people use community ministries, but the food the community ministries is able to buy is getting less and less because it's costing more and more nowadays.
Yeah, that's certainly something that I believe they've talked about in the past, potentially even for the article that I'd done on them last regarding their food bank and more as to how it works and the food reclamation stuff, which still fascinates me, honestly. But yeah, food is very expensive, along with a lot of other things are getting very expensive. So it's harder to get the things that they need to support the people that they need to support, and they are actually seeing an increase in the people that are accessing the food bank resources. So and that's actually started a few months ago now. They said since September, so it's really climbed up there. And every year around the holidays as well, there's always this big uptake in their Christmas hampers too, which is, as far as I remember from last year as well, has also been increasing. So
that's right, Casper. That genuinely surprised me when I spoke with Amanda Nottingale about that. The fact that the need seems to be growing earlier and earlier in the season. As you said there, September. That hasn't been the norm in previous years. It's an unfortunate reality, though, of the situation that many people have to deal with. Mm-hmm. And as you hit Christmas, as you said, it gets more and more.
Yeah. There's always, of course, the rent if you're renting, mortgage, who knows? Because, everybody's situation is different, and different needs for different people will always look different based on their individual situations and what they're able to sort of do in their situations. So with people needing to access the food bank, it's very important that the programs are getting the support that they need.
That's right. And I want to state this is very much because over the years, the concept of need has evolved and has changed so much. When I was a younger person, a person in need, you sort of had a certain stigma about it. And quite honestly, looking back at that was an unfair stigma to be putting if you needed to go to a food bank. And that's not the case, because people who have jobs, people who have multiple jobs, family, multiple jobs, still need to use the food bank. They're doing everything they can to put food on the table, and they still need to be assisted in this way. I was able to work a part-time job, full-time job in the 90s, and I was able to put food on the table, and I was able to pay my rent. Quite honestly, if I were in that exact same situation that I was in my 20s in the 90s, and I were in that exact same situation today, I wouldn't be able to make ends meet. Is that my fault? No, I'm still, as an individual, trying to do everything I can. I'm going out there, I'm putting in the hours, I'm putting in the work. But the situation of reality in society has changed. The cost of living has risen so much over the last 20 years. And quite honestly, the paychecks haven't risen equal to that. So an organization like Neepawa Community Ministry Center is so important. And if you're able to help, whether through the Neepawa Farmers game on the 17th again, or just going down there right now with some types of non-perishable food items, every little bit helps. And that I want to emphasize as well, Casper. Don't think that one can doesn't make a difference. Because if I bring down a can of soup, and if you bring down a box of pasta, and if somebody else brings over a can of soda crackers, and just one at a time, that makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. And of course, the Salvation Army or Neepawa Community Ministries has had other support recently as well. This time from the Neepawa Titans, and that was actually through toy drop-offs, which is another thing that's very much welcome, of course, to help throughout the holidays. It was actually quite a few boxes, several, in fact, and those were all collected from fans. They had been donated at one of the recent games there, which was on December 4th, actually. So, yeah, very recently.
Oh, yeah, the most recent game they had at the Yellowhead Arena. I was down there, saw everybody sort of piling the toys on there. After the game, which was a win, by the way, the players started bringing all the toys back into the dressing room there. They were getting them all set up, and they were bringing them down there. It's wonderful to see this type of synergy, not just from the Titans, from the Farmers. I know the Tigers, the high school team do a lot of things throughout the year in terms of fundraising. It's nice to see sports and sports organizations doing these types of things and seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah, just as a whole, from both the hockey teams here and the hockey team's fans and just the community all together supporting these things is just incredible and certainly very much needed, as we've said before. And there's going to be a lot more of that a little bit later on, not too later on, because we're going to get to that actually just after this one here. First off, we have the Coraliers to talk about. This is something that I believe wasn't able to happen last year, their annual sort of Christmas in Song event. That's usually a concert. I believe they hold at the Roxy Theater.
In previous years, you're right.
Yeah. And that wasn't able to happen last year due to the pandemic, and that, in a sense, has been put on hold again this year, except there is still going to be some music going on, just in a different way. You're actually going to be seeing them on here on NAC TV. So you'll still get your music there. There's a whole bunch of different artists lined up there for that, so you'll be able to enjoy the songs. And at the moment, it is actually planned to have the lyrics on screen so that people can sing along from their homes as well. So it's still going on. You're going to be able to enjoy that. A lot of these songs have actually been recorded already, so those are planned for that future date, which you can find in the paper here on page 3.
And right now, I believe it's scheduled, its first showing, if I remember correctly, is set for Saturday the 11th, in and around 1 o'clock, I believe. Now, if you want to catch that very first showing, but again, as Casper said, you're going to have to check the schedule, see when the re-showings will be occurring. It's obviously going to be going on a lot during the holiday season, sort of get everybody in that nice festive spirit. It's nice to see NACTV go that extra mile and do something like this and work with organizations like this to get this together and make it a reality.
Absolutely, yeah. So definitely check out that full story. Get all the details, the dates and times all set up for you. Make sure you got the channel number. That will most likely be on the schedule as well in case you've missed it. So take a look at that. Enjoy your music for the holidays. And we'll go into our next story here, which I apologize. I ended up switching up the order on you there by accident. But
no worries. They're all good. It's all good and it's all festive.
I threw you a curveball. So, but yes, all on the same track. Very festive here. Into another sort of community support story here. Similar vein, I suppose, to the Neepawa Community Ministries, just in a bit of a different flavor here. Hugs for the Holidays is happening again this year, and there's a couple different groups that have been supporting it this year. That would be the Neepawa Men's Shed, and the other one, I believe, was Girls Fit Club. There it is. They've sort of partnered up this year with Christmas ornaments. The Neepawa Men's Shed was creating these little like Christmas tree type decorations fashioned out of wood, and the Girls Fit Club had a sort of mother-daughter craft night there in which they painted those ornaments that the Men's Shed made. And all of those are going to be part of the Hugs for the Holidays gifts there that can be contributed to by the community by picking up, they call them mitten, I believe. Yeah, there will be different locations that you can pick those up at that we have listed there.
And it's really nice because it's in partnership as well with Hand and the Neepawa Kin Club that work together to put this together. You combine that with the Fit Club and the Men's Shed, who saw the value in it, wanted to support it. It's nice to be able to see everybody working together in this way for some little bit of positivity.
Yeah. I know a lot of people have probably been feeling down, of course. You know, the holidays itself can be a little bit hard for some people there. And then, of course, you know, the COVID-19 pandemic is still going on, so maybe you can't see people as much as you would like to. But this is a really nice feel-good thing for people in the community. Not just in terms of the people who will be receiving, of course, which is very much needed and appreciated, but in terms of just the different groups that are helping out as well. It keeps them active, and they're able to, you know, contribute to these things that help other people feel good. And, you know, that feels good, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's nice to have everybody sort of coming together and helping each other out, especially during the holidays here. It really gives a sense of fellowship in the community, which I think it's something that I think we see a lot of in Neepawa every year.
Yeah, definitely this time of year. That month of positivity, especially in 2021, we're very appreciative of it right about now.
Yes, definitely, for sure.
But you know that positivity sort of, like every single story for the most part seems to be a good news or a positive this year or this week.
Yeah, and that's a good thing for us because, you know, you just get bogged down by a lot of the other stuff that goes on in the news industry because, you know, you have to keep up with a lot of the not pleasant stuff that happens sometimes, but when we get to cover things like this, it's just really special for us.
We don't want to depress you with the reality of society. You know, we don't want to do that as much as you don't want to hear about it sometimes, but that's the way the world is sometimes, and we do have to share the bad with the good. It's just much like you, we enjoy talking about the good just as much as you like to read about it. Yes,
absolutely. We much prefer sharing stuff like this as opposed to much sadder things. As important as those other things are, because, you know, that's our job. That's what we need to do, is we need to tell you all the stuff that's going on here as much as we're able to. Yes, definitely check that story out on page 10. Learn a bit more about the program there, how you can help out, and, you know, spread the cheer.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got a little more of cheer being spread, not holiday related, but still just very giving, I think.
Yeah, very giving, certainly, definitely in the spirit of things still, I believe. Yep. But Stride Credit Union, this is on page 7, by the way. Check out all the stories on there. There's still a lot that we can talk about. But Stride Credit Union is actually helping Kinsman Courts to furnish the rest of their building. They donated actually quite a big sum there, $23,000 that was given on December 2nd there. And while the usage of the funds was discussed between the two groups there, it was left up primarily to Kinsman Courts 2 as to how they would use it. And they chose, obviously, as the title suggests, that it would be used to help furnish the rest of the building. So they were able to purchase furniture for the guest suite, boardroom, and a portion of the activity room. Which is very helpful there.
What's kind of interesting, Casper, is just before we were recording, I was over there doing another tour of the facility, and I actually got to see some of the furnishings in question on this. In the boardroom, in the rec room, in the guest suite and all of that, and because they've already purchased them. This is sort of helping them to sort of cover the costs of the purchasing, and it looks fantastic. It really does, and we'll most likely have a full story on that sort of for next week's edition of the Banner Press. So even though we talked about it this week, you'll probably be able to see one or two of those furnishings in next week's paper.
Yeah, and potentially something else. I think you had a good lunch over there from what I heard.
The lunch was kind of all right, I gotta tell you something. They served it up pretty good. It's no complaints. Kinsman Court Stew really seemed to be doing it up all right.
Yeah, all right.
Nope.
Well, not to have us too short on time here, we have another thing that we can cover, which I think is a fascinating local story, honestly. I don't think, to my memory, I've had a whole lot of personal interaction, at least with this individual, but still a very interesting thing to hear about, and congratulations to them, honestly. But Jody Anderson, a former Neepawa resident, is out on the ice in uniform. And Owen, you're very more familiar with the details on this than I am. Walk us through that.
Well, a lot of people think the road to the next level for hockey is through play, being a player. And that's not always the case. Sometimes a different uniform can make it to the show in terms of the officials, and that's what Jody Anderson is doing right now. This young individual is, as we speak right now, working as one of the officials for an upcoming series of games between Hockey Canada's national women's team and the PWHPA All-Star team. That's going on in Alberta, I believe. She's also been recently started officiating U Sport, which is the highest tier of university sports athletics. So congratulations to her on that. Was actually forwarded a full story on that from an individual, and we'll have more details on that in next week's edition of the Banner Press.
All right, yes, congratulations, Jody. It's really interesting seeing the different levels that people end up at, whether you're familiar with them in passing or very personally, or even just from an outside perspective, seeing people from Neepawa go out and do these things or similar things that perhaps you didn't really expect in one way or another. Yeah, that's honestly all I can really say. It's incredible to hear about these things.
Yep. And again, if you want to share those types of stories with us, you can do so by getting in touch. Absolutely.
Well, there's a lot more we could cover in the paper here, like just to list a few things. There's obviously, looking back, we have a few other pictures in there. Some really cute ones on page 11, might I say. No spoilers, but I think you'll find a nice, pleasant, fluffy surprise on that page. So I would suggest taking a look at that personally. We have, of course, Helen's recipe. Always a treat there. This time, holiday salad. But, of course, that is all we really have time for. So, of course, pick up a hard copy of the paper. Or if you're not able to go out for whatever reason, we do have the full paper published on our website on later on Thursdays or Fridays. So you can take a look there as well. We do have to wrap things up, but if you would like to get in any news stories or news tips, submit photos, you can contact us at news@neepawabanner.com or give us a phone call at 204-476-3401. If you would like to support us through ads, you can give us a call there as well, or contact us directly at ads@neepawabanner.com. And if obviously, if you have a letter you'd like to submit, a little thumbs up, give somebody a shout out, you can send us that at news@neepawabanner.com as well. Thank you for joining us today, again, viewers, for this episode of Story Behind the Stories. And Owen, thank you for joining me once again.
You bet.
All right. Everybody, have a good rest of your day or night, and we'll see you next time.